First of all, if you've been subscribed to this channel for any length of time, thank you. I appreciate it. I know it's been a while since I posted anything real, and I feel I owe you an explanation. Some of you subscribed back when I was doing commercial photography, others when I was doing tech reviews. I've been on YouTube for about 8 to 10 years now and trying to figure out what this channel should be. Here's part of why you haven't seen me for a while. For over 2 years, I've tried to figure out what my channel should be about, what my niche is supposed to be, according to the YouTube experts. I'll get into the niche part in a bit. Maybe my niche is about life, experience, moving forward, what to do. My life right now is uncertain and nothing like what I thought it would be in my 60s. You know, what's really humbling, I'm the guy who spent 50 years solving other people's problems. I built companies from scratch. I managed lots of people. For over 20 years, I turned dirt and blueprints into multi-million-dollar dream homes as a luxury home builder. I stepped into chaos as a catastrophe insurance adjuster and brought solutions after a disaster. I did web design when the internet was still kind of the Wild West. I even owned a trucking company and drove over 1 million miles hauling high value and oversized loads. I was the guy people would call when they needed something fixed, something built, something figured out, and explaining, how do you do this? But the job market today, it's told me all of that experience is basically worthless. I've been rejected for jobs that pay less than what I made 30 years ago. I've sat through phone interviews where a 28-year-old hiring manager asked me if I knew how to use the software that had been around for just 3 years. My 50 years of experience vanished in that moment. They were only checking boxes, completely ignoring the fact that I'd navigated recessions, managed multi-million-dollar budgets, and solved problems they can't ever imagine or might even face. And you know what? The situation is right now, I'm working at a big box retailer, but trust me, what got me there is not what you think. I'll tell you about that in a minute. I will tell you, it's made the idea of starting something new feel almost impossible some days. After 50 years of building things, leading teams, being my own boss, I'm now wearing a name tag and standing on a concrete floor for 8 hours a day. Truth is, I could make more asking, would you like fries with that? Yeah, but here's what I haven't told you. Here's the real reason I disappeared from YouTube for over 2 years. So give me a couple minutes to explain how I tried to change lives. I wasn't just job hunting or having a midlife crisis. I was working on something that mattered more than any paycheck I'd ever earned or anything I'd ever built. I spent all of my time and most of my money trying to create a nonprofit organization that could support nonprofits in their anti-trafficking efforts. The idea was to provide a dedicated private jet transport for survivors and support staff when it's absolutely critical. Think about it. When law enforcement conducts rescue operations, or when survivors need to get to federal court to testify, or when they need specialized medical care, they need safe, fast, and reliable transport, not commercial flights. They can't handle crowds or don't have documentation or might run into dangerous people from their past. Not ground transport that takes days and puts them at further risk. I spent 2 years of my life trying to raise the $4 to $5 million needed to make this happen. 2 years reaching out to foundations, learning how to connect with wealthy donors and corporate sponsors. And after connecting with the director of one of the top nonprofits who rescues survivors, it was something they desperately needed. Even law enforcement I spoke with agreed it's something that is absolutely necessary. I spent 2 years believing that someone, somewhere, would see the value in giving survivors the safety and dignity of private, untraceable transport. And you know what I learned? even when you're trying to help the most vulnerable people in society, even when your mission is literally saving lives, if you can't present it in the right package to the right people with the right connections, it doesn't matter how important the work is. My nonprofit never happened, but I still believe it needs to. So there I was, over 60 years old, with a failed nonprofit launch, no income for 2 years, and facing the reality that I needed a job, any job, just to survive. And the only place that would hire me quickly, retail. Standing on concrete for 8 hours a day, wearing a name tag, getting treated like I'm 18 years old with no life experience, often getting yelled at by customers who'd had a bad day and management that didn't even care about my experience. It all boiled down to, how many credit card applications did you get this week? Let me tell you what that does to your head when you've just spent 2 years trying to help people who need it most. Every morning when I put on that vest with a name tag, there's this voice in my head that says, you went from building amazing things to trying to save lives to asking people if they want extended warranties. Me, just trying to keep my bills paid. Every day my legs and my back ache from standing on concrete all day. I think about how I used to solve problems that mattered, how I was working on something that could have made a real difference in the world. I can't count the number of times I've stood there quietly saying to myself, what the hell am I doing here? That daily grind has almost pushed me into depression several times. It's honestly pushed me into a pretty dark place, not just disappointment. The headspace where you start questioning everything you thought you knew about yourself and your purpose. And that's part of why I disappeared from YouTube, because how do you make videos about anything when you're doubting your purpose? How do you review tech gadgets when you feel like you've wasted 2 years of your life on something that ultimately meant nothing to people who control the money? But there's something else I need to tell you. And this part I've never admitted publicly before, not once. But if I don't say it now, then none of this makes sense. Something I've been hiding my entire career, throughout all of those years of building companies and solving problems. I never let anyone see when I was struggling, when I was financially exhausted, when I was mentally drained, when I was scared or uncertain or didn't have a business mentor to turn to. I spent 50 years making sure everyone saw me as the guy who had it together, the guy who could handle anything, because I was terrified that if people knew I was struggling, they'd think I was a failure. And you know what I learned most? Almost everyone goes through these situations. Almost everyone has these fears. But we're also busy pretending we had it figured out that we never talk about it to anyone, ever. I tried to start a small one-man grading and dirt work company with a new compact track loader. Grading dirt, site cleanup for contractors, homeowners. Stuff I actually did years ago, and something that I actually find therapeutic. And if you ever tried starting something from scratch, you'll know exactly how brutal the next part was. I reached out to hundreds of contractors throughout multiple email campaigns, trying to get interest and build some traction to get going. And it went nowhere. Now, because I'm not a marketing expert, my efforts mostly fell flat. That added to the doubts already building. So there I was, a failed nonprofit founder, fighting occasional moments of depression, an entrepreneur, a retail employee, all at the same time. That's when it hit me. I've been so focused on trying to figure out what I should be talking about was right in front of me. This whole experience, the struggle, the journey from mission-driven work to just trying to survive. Here's what I realized. I can't be the only one going through this. There have to be other people out there who've tried to do meaningful work and run into walls they couldn't break through. There are thousands of people who've had to take the jobs that feel like a huge step backwards just to pay the bills. Maybe some of you watching this have been in similar situations. Maybe some of you have tried to start something that mattered and couldn't get support you needed. Maybe some of you have just discovered that having good intentions and valuable experience isn't always enough. And maybe, just maybe, this will help you and me and others figure out what comes next. See, I spent 8 years on YouTube trying to choose between making videos about photography or tech or business advice, but that's not authentic to where I am right now. Right now, I'm someone who's learned that even the most important missions can fail. Someone who's discovering that starting over after 60 means dealing with a whole different set of challenges than I expected. If you're going through something similar, if you felt undervalued despite your experience, or if you're trying to figure out what comes next after 50 or 60, let me know in the comments. I want to know I'm not alone in this. So here's what I'm thinking. This channel is going to become something different than what I'd originally planned. It's going to be real-time documentation of figuring life out after 60, not giving you advice from some position of success, but me sharing what I learned as I built the wins and the losses. Now, for now, I'm still working retail because I have to pay the bills, but I'm also going to document my journey trying to build something meaningful, whether that's finding my way back to work that matters or building this YouTube channel into something that can actually support me. And here's the thing, I'm betting I'm not alone on this. There have been other people out there who've spent decades building skills and solving problems only to find themselves wondering if any of it still matters. Other people who've had to take jobs that feel like massive steps backwards just to survive. Other people over 50 who feel invisible in today's economy. So this channel's going to focus on two things. First, real talk about life, business, and starting over after 50. I've got 50 years of stories, failures, and lessons, and hard-won experience. The kind of stuff you only learn by actually doing it, building companies, managing teams, navigating recessions, making million-dollar decisions, and yes, even failing at things that matter deeply to me and admitting it. Second, I'm going to show you what I've learned about building a YouTube channel. I've been doing this for 8 to 10 years with about 1,400 subscribers, which means I've made a lot of mistakes. And I'm finally ready to talk about what actually works and what doesn't, especially for people our age who are trying to build something online. No BS about overnight success, no pretending I've got it all figured out. Just honest lessons from someone who's been in the trenches and is now doing things differently. I want to have honest conversations about what it's like to reinvent yourself when your experience feels undervalued, I guess. About dealing with ageism, age discrimination, financial pressure, and that voice that says, maybe it's too late. And I'm hoping, really hoping, that by being open about this whole messy journey, I'll connect with people who understand. People who've tried to do meaningful work, people who have decades of knowledge that the world needs to hear. I need to figure out how to get out of retail as fast as possible. My body can't handle standing on concrete for 8 hours a day much longer. And mentally, it's draining almost everything I have left. Every day I stay there is another day my body's breaking down. A little more, my confidence takes another huge hit. I've been paralyzed trying to figure out the right decision for this channel because I need it to work for my health, for my sanity, for my future. But here's what I realized. Maybe the whole point is the uncertainty. Maybe what people need to see is someone who hasn't, or someone who has it all figured out, but someone who's willing to show the real process of figuring it out. So I'm making a bet on authenticity, on being real about the struggle, on showing what, even at 60 plus, even working retail, even after major failures, you can still try something new. Because honestly, staying silent hasn't worked. Pretending I've had everything under control for 50 years didn't prepare me for this moment. Maybe this whole video is just me finally letting go of the mask. All the times I questioned whether I was making the right decisions. All the times I felt like I was barely keeping my head above water but couldn't let anybody see it. And for the first time in my life, I'm going to be completely honest about all of it. Because maybe that's exactly what some of you need to hear. Maybe we can figure this out together. If you've ever been told you're too old or that your experience doesn't matter, this channel might be for you. So here's what I need from you, and I really mean this. Let me know in the comments. Are you going through something similar? Have you felt undervalued despite decades of experience? What direction do you think the channel should take? More of my life and business stories, or more about what actually works on YouTube for people over 50? Your feedback will literally shape what I create next. So let me know in the comments. Are you going through something similar? Have you felt undervalued despite years of experience? What direction do you think the channel should take? And if you want to see where this goes, if you want to watch someone in their 60s try to find meaning, purpose, and a way out of retail, and hit the subscribe button. I really appreciate it. This is one of whatever comes next. I don't know where it leads, but I'm finally ready to figure it out. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. And thank you for giving me a reason to finally hit record again. See you soon.